Hey friends, Casey Ashmore coming to you from the studio. We're doing some more on this video series. It's kind of a heavier one. It's about 3G offenses in the state of Texas, and I've talked a little bit about what they are, why we still call them by that nickname 3G, because they are our most violent offenses. They carry with them certain consequences and certain things that cannot be done in order to resolve them, and certain consequences that on a final conviction. So, like I have done over the last several months, the start of any video series, we have given special attention to the unending coronavirus economic hardships that our friends, neighbors, and countrymen are suffering from, and we're sending prayers of love and solidarity to lift them up so they can provide for their families soon, as well as for love and healing and compromise in our great nation in light of the stark reflection of how we must do better to live up to the rhetoric of our own revolution in light of the death of Mr. Floyd. We are also praying for love, compromise, and healing, and are reminded of the motto of our great nation, E pluribus unum, out of many, one. So we're talking about 3G offenses in the state of Texas, and not going to go through that whole list again. Injury to the elderly, injury to a child, drug trafficking, human trafficking, drug trafficking involving children, things of those natures, your murder, capital murder, your most violent offenses. So what's different about 3G offenses is that for plea negotiations, straight probation is not an option. And I'm going to explain what straight probation is briefly. Straight probation is where a defendant gives up his valuable right to vote, gives up his valuable right to bear arms, and accepts a felony conviction in lieu of prison time and goes on straight probation, which usually is pretty onerous. But a 3G offense, that's not on the table. The only thing that the judge could approve would be a deferred, and I'm going to get into that in a little bit. But while it's ineligible in a plea situation, it's my understanding, based on our current case law and the way the Code of Criminal Procedure is written, is that a jury on final conviction could still consider straight probation on a 3G offense, but the likelihood of that consideration to me seems not worth the risk. But regarding like a pre-trial plea negotiation with the state of Texas, straight probation, not an option. The option that is permitted for a 3G offense is deferred, and the reason why, in my opinion, is because deferred probation gives the person charged with a crime the opportunity to do two things: get their entire life back, including all their rights as a citizen, or alternatively, hit a tripwire and have the full range of punishment open for the judge and the prosecutor to sentence that defendant when it comes time to evaluate. So deferred probation means that the judge takes a allocution of guilt. The criminal defendant has to make a plea of guilty in open court, say that they are guilty, and they're pleading guilty for no other reason but for the fact that they are guilty. And the judge is going to require that specific language. The judge is going to defer the imposition of any finding and then of any guilt and place that person on deferred probation. And that's usually pretty intensive probation. It's not going to be an easy ride. It might involve leg monitors, breathalyzers, checking in with probation weekly instead of monthly, lots of community service hours, lots of fines, maybe some restitution. But at the end of that lengthy process, that person has an opportunity to get their rights back as a citizen, and provided there's nothing else in the nature of the charge or in the defendant's criminal history that would prevent that. The downside of that is it opens up the defendant, if they hit a tripwire and there's a motion to adjudicate guilt or motion to revoke the probation, essentially the same thing, that the prior plea of guilty is taken as true, and then whatever the allegations are about the violations of the deferred probation process, if those are proven true, then the defendant faces the full range of punishment from the original offense. So it's a catch-22. There's a big carrot because you could get your life back, but there's a big stick. The state of Texas will come right back behind you, slam it down, and you know, if the full range of punishment was 10 years for that 3G offense you committed 8 years ago, and you hit a tripwire on year 8, you could be looking at a 10-year TDCJ stretch. So, big risk, big reward. These are things to be aware of if a friend, loved one, what have you, may be charged with these offenses. Heavy stuff. I try to make these positive, informational, uplifting. This is really only one of those 3. If you have any questions or comment, please direct message me. I'll get back in a video series subject back to you, or direct message, or both. And thanks again for watching, and I'll see you guys in the studio for the finale on 3G offenses in Texas.